My project was based upon the concept of night and exploring what that meant to me as a person within newer technologies. Of course, the medium I chose to represent this and the newer/emerging technologies I was referring to was that of VR art, specifically OpenBrush. Both the topic and the software used were decided upon after much research and personal experience, such as using rival paint softwares before my final decision. Before the project even truly began, though, I was already busy working on both conceptual sketches and time management. Something I learned from my previous year was my difficulty to effectively manage larger scale projects on my own, and so this time I made sure to create a timeline of how I wished my project to go. This was created within Excel and was crucial with keeping me on track, as well as avoiding common feeling that I was further behind than I should have been. As for the concept sketches, I used two techniques, thumbnail sketching and regular full conceptual environment sketches. Thumbnail sketching involves making multiple small drawings and, in my case, under a time limit. This forces you to focus on the bigger picture whilst also forcing creativity, as your brain is forced to create many different, low detail ideas rather than focusing on one, as most people often do. After the thumbnails were complete, I chose an idea I liked, and this would then be developed further and become the regular environment sketches used as reference throughout the creation process. The concept of night was decided upon after much deliberation. After all, I wanted the project to convey my emotions in a clear way, whilst also being an effective representation of the ways VR could possibly use both in and out of the games industry. At first, I wanted the project to relate to horror in some way, the moon being shown as a large eyeball representing my own feelings of anxiety, and how as I began to socially transition, those feelings grew larger and larger. Yet, I soon realized I both couldn't represent this idea in the way I wanted with my skill level, as well as wanting to show a more positive, or at least bittersweet, representation of both my emotions and the night itself. So, instead of focusing upon horror, I focused upon longing, replacing drab colours for brighter, more cartoonish designs to try and represent the feeling of desire, of wanting someone else to simply spend the night with. I believe my representation of a silhouetted couple holding hands contrasting them against the moon shows this well, as the contrast clearly demands the user's attention whilst showing their affection for one another. As to why this represents night, I often felt most comfortable during this time. It may not be something all users can relate to, yet for most of my life the only time I was able to feel myself was alone at night. As such, this piece represents my willingness and desire to share this special time, or rather my true self, with someone else one day. As the project develops, you can see me sketching out the basic shapes and paths I wanted to include, making sure to have one large working area so the project feels truly alive. Speaking of alive, that was one of the key facets of this piece. I truly wished to do something that couldn't be done either with traditional or digital art. As such, a 360 painting was a natural fit. This allowed me to show an immersive story, almost like a stylized snapshot of an area rather than a painting. As such, the environment was built around one central area rather than simply in front of the audience. In addition, this fixed point that the user finds themselves in allowed me to add more detail to the environment. This is because I understood all the angles that the player would be able to view, and as such I would be able to ignore/cover those that they couldn't. Without using this technique, I wouldn't have been able to capture the cozy feeling I was attempting to with this piece, rather ending up with a project filled with large yet barren fields. As the scene develops, I began to create multiple high detail assets, adding more detail to the basic blockouts I had created earlier. To ensure that I had control over the scene, I also began to employ the use of multiple different layers, allowing me to easily select and modify different assets in the project without fear of changing unrelated assets. This is most prominently used with the trees, but most assets have their own layer in this project for ease of use. Another way I conveyed aliveness to the audience was through the use of different brushes. At first, I stuck to using the same oil brush, yet as the project progressed and I wished to use different textures and light, it became imperative that I would need to explore and expand the brushes I used. This can be seen most clearly with the fireflies and stars, the fireflies using an animated embers texture, and to create a sense of movement within the scene, and the latter using standard light brush with slightly blue tint. Similarly, my choice of color palette was well researched, using color theory to craft an environment that is visually coherent and pleasing to the user. I believe the lights and darks show this off well. Rather than simply darkening the shades, I would like to make the color warmer or cooler, depending on if it was increasing or decreasing the shade in a C gradient. This avoided the shadows and lights from washing out the other colors in the scene, as would be the case if I had simply used pure black and white.